everybody, I hope you're keeping well. I thought I'd get on here today because I wanted to talk about my experience on my apprenticeship that I did back in 2016 to 2018. Now, I already got experience of a full-time college. I will link that below. Just bearing in mind I was a lot younger then and kind of learning the ropes, if you like, of how to do videos, so it might make not a lot of sense and I jump back and forth. I tend to anyway because I don't script stuff, so if I end up jumping back and forth, if I do, I'll try obviously to edit it so it's in the correct order. I won't, muck about with it too much. But I wanted to talk about my experience, and I still feel like I didn't really highlight this enough in my previous experience with college. But I wanted to do these videos because I want to help other people. Your education isn't going in the right direction and it's not down to you, then you should speak up. And that is one mistake that I made, and I wish that I didn't. I wish that I spoke up and said, no, this isn't acceptable. So if this video helps somebody to go, hold on a minute, that's not okay, then that's better for me. Now, I'm obviously not, like last video, I'm not going to name names because it wasn't necessarily the place, and also it doesn't matter about where it is because this can happen anywhere. This is regarding, the situations that happened, etc. So going back to when I started there, so obviously after the whole situation with level 3 of the full-time college, throughout that time when things started not going right, and I felt, obviously I'm not going to go too in depth because there is a video there, but basically when they started mucking me around and trying to kick me off the course and stuff for no apparent reason, that's when me and my parents decided that no, you're not staying there, you're going to go somewhere else. And we were looking, and so I started applying for apprenticeships and stuff like that. But it took a long time to because basically I don't know how it works necessarily now or how it works in other countries and stuff like that. But when I was doing it at the time, you had to have placement in a salon, or I suppose for any apprenticeship, a placement in a job before you could start doing the apprenticeship itself. So it took time. So it ended up being that I started an apprenticeship once I had finished full-time college, probably like a week's difference, if that really. So I'm going to go over first how all of that went at the apprenticeship, how it all started up. So I basically applied there, took a model, etc., did all that, and then I was told, so there's a lot of red flags already. I'm going to be completely honest, there's a lot of red flags already. But I was told, no, you can't do level 3 hairdressing course because you've already done it, you're not allowed to redo it. Now, I explained to them multiple times, again and again, and this is important that I say this because it will make sense when I go on to the next part, but I explained to them multiple times, again and again, that I haven't got a full level 3 qualification, because if you watch the previous video, you'll know that they basically just shoved me onto cutting for whatever reason. So I didn't have a full qualification. No, doesn't matter, you can't do it, we're going to have to put you on barbering. I didn't really want to do barbering at the time, I wasn't interested in barbering at the time. I wanted to do hairdressing, that's what I was trying to do. That was something I was thinking of what barbering was doing. I was thinking of doing later down the line, so to speak. And so then from there, I start the barbering course. I'm hating every single minute of it because it wasn't something that I wanted to particularly do. I just really didn't like it. It wasn't for me. I wasn't enjoying it. And I just felt at a loss, to be honest. I didn't know where I wanted to be at. I just felt like, and don't get me wrong, my barbering shirt that I had, because I only did, to be fair, I only did the barbering for probably about 2 or 3 weeks, something like that. And the barbering shirt I had, she was fantastic, to be fair, she was fantastic. and lovely, and I can't fault her in any way. She was really, really lovely and kind, and she was brilliant at what she did, I have to say. And so when I finally got the certificates, because it took time to get the certificates, I think with college you don't get your certificates until it was either something like the end of July, or it was like school where you didn't get it till August, basically. And when I got my certificates, she then, when I brought them in, because I had to bring them in to show them to them, because obviously from there was like, we can make sure we're doing the right thing for you, etc. From there, it was, well, when I showed them certificates, and then I was in class, my barber chick went, well, why didn't you say anything? And I was like, I have said things all of the time, you know. And she was like, oh, okay, then we'll put you into the right class and blah blah blah. This might take up to weeks, so you don't need to come to next week's barbering class and blah blah. And then I had to obviously let work know, because then the days were different, basically, of when you were supposed to be in for hairdressing and barbering and all that jazz. And basically, I then got somebody that I knew before, let's say, them working there. And I thought it'd be great, it'd be brilliant. She understands my situation. I thought brilliant. She knows all of what's going on, and that's what I wanted to do. So from there, straight away, I started noticing little things, and I was like, okay, this is a bit strange. I was like, okay, a little bit strange, but I kind of just put it down to she was starting there, brand new, and she was getting her head around everything, but whatever. And straight away, I noticed that she was very much favouritising all the other people over me. And it's not about me wanting to be favoritised, by the way, it's nothing to do with that. It was about, what annoyed me was about the fact that I was receiving very different treatment to everybody else. She was off with me all the time. It was like I was an inconvenience to her, because she'd be constantly huffing when I asked her to check things and stuff like that. And then basically in this place, you had paper tracker and an online tracker where you'd upload your pictures and etc. And then from there, they would have to sign that off, and then they would sign it off on the paper tracker. And basically, they had to match, right? They had to match. And I would be doing all these models. Bearing in mind, when I look back, I'm going to be completely honest, when I look back, I put 110% in over everybody else. I'm sorry, but I did. I felt that other people in that class really didn't, probably apart from one, she was very hard working, I will give her that, but the rest of them, you could tell they just couldn't be asked to be there, basically. And that bugged me, that really bugged me, because I was like, that's not what I'm here for. I'm here to work hard and get my qualification, and I couldn't understand why she was treating them in a way that weren't with me. From there, then, she asked me to come in on the PO sessions. Now, PO sessions, I don't actually really know what it stands for, but PO sessions is basically the following week that you're not in college, you would come in on your day off, and you would do stuff to pass off your course. I had no problem with that. I was a bit annoyed at first, because I was planning to do my driving lessons at that point, and it put that all to a halt, because I wouldn't have had time to do it, and I weren't going to do it every fortnight. But anyway, I thought, you know what? It's extra time, it's good for me, blah, blah, blah. This is where one of my biggest issues that I had, not just with her, to be fair, but with majority of staff in that place. The communication was absolutely diabolical. And I'm not using that word lightly. It was absolutely atrocious. So she said to me, right, come in on the PO sessions next week, and we'll have a model for you, and this will get you ahead, basically, and get things done quicker. Brilliant. Who wouldn't want that? Because I kind of, at that point, I'll be completely honest, I was fed up that I was having to kind of redo a whole year again, because it had been wasted prior to that. So then I was a step behind, but that's a whole nother story anyway. And so I turn up on this PO session, and where do I even start? So I go in and they said, oh yeah, you're in this class today. Brilliant, right, go into the classroom, set up. I then go up to the tutor, because you don't have the same tutor, bearing in mind you don't have your tutor on the PO session, or you didn't when I was there. I don't know if it's changed or whatever. From there, I walk up to that tutor and I says, oh, you know, I was supposed to have a model today. I was told I was going to have a model. Have I got a model? Blah, blah. Oh, no, I didn't know. No one's told me about that. No one told me, to be honest, you were going to be in here. I'm like, what? And so I thought, you know what? There's obviously been a bit of confusion. I'll let it be for this time. I'll let it be. Sometimes these things can happen. That's fair play. It's fair enough. These things can happen. So then I then I go in the next week like normal, and then the following week I do PO session again. And again, the same situation happened. And I thought, right, I'll set my blockhead up and whatever, or I'll ask her to train me on some things. This other tutor. And I understand she had her own class as well, but at the same time, if I'm going on a PO session, I should be trained as well, part of the class. I was completely ignored, completely blunt. Bear in mind, this was a different tutor to the one before. And I was just completely ignored and completely blanked, and I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing. I literally, this is not even an exaggeration or joke, I was literally just stood there doing nothing. And it's probably bad, because I probably could have been, you know, when I look back, you know, hindsight's a wonderful thing. When I look back, I probably could have been like, right, let me do something that's going to benefit me. But at that point, I just didn't know what I was supposed to be doing, where I was supposed to be at, and whatever. So I just packed my stuff up and I went home, and I stopped going to the PO sessions, because I thought, you know what, why wasting my time? You know, this is my day off at the end of the day when all's said and done. Why am I wasting it when I'm coming in and I'm standing around and I'm doing nothing, and no one's engaging with me at all? And that frustrated me. So I stopped going for ages, and then I remember I was confronted by my tutor at the time, and she was like, oh, have you been going to the PO sessions? I says, no. And she was like, why? Why haven't you been going to the PO sessions? I says, because they're a waste of time. I said, every time I go in, I'm blanked, I'm ignored. Nobody is talking to me, and no one knows I'm supposed to be there, and then there's no models. You know, and the thing is, people go, well, why don't you get your own models or whatever? But the problem is people I knew at the time, and still know, obviously, you know, they were either working, so, you know, anybody who's working, you know, you have to give notice to have days off, or they had children, which therefore meant having to put provisions in place for childcare. You know what, to be completely honest with you, half of the time we wouldn't even know what we would be doing on that session until we was in on that session. So it's not like I could plan or prepare and say, can you make sure you can have this day off, or would it be okay for you to be able to come in for me to do this, blah, 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 because we didn't have any idea what it was that we were supposed to be doing until we was in on that session. And a good example of that, and I'm sorry if I'm jumping ahead and jumping back, but, you know, it's coming back to my mind, but another brilliant example of that was, I was in on a PO session once. This is when I started going back to them. This particular occasion, I was in on a PO session, and I bumped into my tutor at the time. And she was like, I went, oh, are you all right? And she was like, yeah, you okay? I was like, yeah, you know, I did this and this today, and I've got this passed off. Because this is when I had another tutor in the PO session who, to be fair, she was brilliant. She was absolutely lovely. She was brilliant. And she got things done for me. And that'll be another story in a minute that I'll explain to you. On occasion, obviously, we bumped into each other. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. And she went, oh, just to let you know, you've got an exam next week. So you had exams on the modules that you were doing, etc., on the computer that you'd have to do to pass off each segment, if you like. And I went, oh, brilliant. I was like, what's the exam so I can revise for it? And she said, don't worry, we'll revise next week when you're in. We'll revise with our class, brilliant, okay. So, and I just thought that's really bad that you're telling us we've got an exam the next week. And I'm the only one, by the way, that knows this because I was the only one that turned up on the PO session, by the way. So none of the other classmates knew about it, which is really bad, I thought. But anyway, coming to the following week into the lesson, what we're doing a practical. And I actually turned around to her and says, "Oh, we're not doing revision for the exam." Yeah, we'll do it later. I said, "I thought we said you were going to do it in the lesson." Yeah, we'll do it later. We never did revision. We went on lunch and we were flung straight into the exam. We never did any revision, not whatsoever. And I remember I failed that exam because I had no preparation. I had no idea. She didn't even still tell us what exam we were doing. So I had no idea what exam we were doing. And yes, to be fair, I'd done the full-time course prior to that. But bearing in mind, it's been quite a while since I've done that. And also as well, the place that I was at for the apprenticeship, they were using a lot of different, companies and stuff like that. Like I think, I'd have to go and look at my certificate. It was a completely different company to the company that we were using anyway. So it was a completely different exam. So I was fuming, I failed it, and then we had to resit it again and blah blah. So I asked her, because she was helping everyone out, and I asked her, and straight away she just huffed me and tutted, and I just was like, "Is there a problem?" I said, "It's your fault that we failed because you didn't give us the right preparation." I would have happily, do you know what? I would have happily, because I prefer revising on my own anyway. That's how I've always worked. I just prefer to do it. So I would have happily accepted her going, "Ego, this is what we're doing. Make sure you revise that." Perfect. I would have had no issue with that. My issue is that she said we'd do revision, and the following week when we turned up, we're doing practical, and we were supposed to do revision. And then when we were meant to do it, we just flung straight into the exam because the problem was as well. And to be fair to this situation, this wasn't her fault. And I think in hindsight, and I'm trying to look at it more of like an open-minded perspective, I think she was very unhappy as a tutor because she didn't have the best support there. And I think also, with, I don't know how all apprenticeships work. I can only speak about where I went and what I had. And where I went, you would have a day. And this, by the way, this day would be, you would start, I believe, at like 8:30, 9:00, and you'd finish at 4:30, 5. So that in itself, you had to cram all of that into a day. So I couldn't understand why she was probably frustrated, was because we just generally didn't have the time. And that goes back to, I feel like it was a complete shambles in that place from top to bottom because there wasn't structure for one. There wasn't structure. So anyway, the next thing that happened is we had to, as part of one of the modules, we had to do competition work. And she told us probably about 4 months prior. So we had time. We had time to do our mood boards and we had time to get our models and all this. Now, I'm just going to express this part because it's important as well. Her words were, "If you cannot find a model for any reason, please come to me and I will get you a model. As long as it's, such amount of time before." And I get that. Of course it needs to be somewhat time. So bearing in mind, I've done my mood board, and my mood board was I loved it. I loved my original concept of my mood board. It was very geometric shapes. It was very kind of 80s-esque. It kind of just really, it was that new wave kind of, but modern touch on it. Like I really put so much into it. And I, to be fair, I went out of my way to try and find a model and nobody could get the time off. So yeah. And basically, it was just like, so I tried everything. And I went to her probably about 2 months prior because I had everything down. I had all the concept, the idea, I've been practicing, etc. So I had everything to the T ready. All I needed was a model at this point because I'd tried everything. So I go to her because I was on a PO session, funny enough, and And when I went to speak to her about it, she straight away went, well, it's not really my problem, is it? I need to just try harder. And I said, I turned to her and I was like, yeah, but you told us if we couldn't that you could help us. You know? And she didn't. And I was, do you know what? This was one situation that I was furious. I was absolutely 100% furious about it because I had put so much into the mood board, the concept of the idea that I wanted. I had to scrap everything because I had to basically use my mum as a model. And the one thing I'm not going to do to mum's hair is turn her hair freaking pink. It's just not going to happen. Do you know what I'm saying? So I had to go with a vintage style. It was very basic. It was very boring. I didn't even get... And at that point, because so much had gone on and so much had happened, I just went with, I don't give a fuck anymore. I'm going to say it. It's my channel. I just don't give a fuck anymore. And that was the attitude that I had. And I wish I didn't, but I was so fed up and so annoyed with being let down relentlessly again and again and again. And like I said, this wasn't just me, this was other people as well. This was happening too, but I'm talking about my story. I just was fed up with it all. And so I just went, I don't care. It was shit. It looked shit. Because it was like I had to throw a mood board together really quickly again. I just had to throw this look together and it just, yeah, I just hated it. I hated everything about it. I don't agree with that should be a mandatory thing either, in my opinion. I think it should be an option. If that's an avenue you want to take, then by all means, that's something you should be able to pick. It shouldn't have to be mandatory. And it was just so stressful. It was horrible. And I was really upset to the point where when we had, because there was an award thing, and I probably was young and stupid, but I made a decision that I wasn't going to go to that. I didn't see the point. I knew I hadn't won. I just hated it, and I didn't go. And I was really disappointed. And I was disappointed in her for the way that she just kind of dismissed me. And that was something that I found. Here we go again. And if you watch the other video, my college experience, you'll understand what I'm saying, because I felt very dismissed in that situation. And I felt very let down. And I just felt like history was repeating itself once again, you know. But the one thing throughout the entirety of this, I have to say, is I didn't speak up because I suppose I was scared to a bit, because I just thought, well, that's how it is and you don't argue with it, do you know what I mean? But in reality, when I've reflected over it over the years and looked back on it, it isn't school. It is a skill that you are training in. It is education for your career. And they have a job to do to make sure you're getting everything that you need out of the education. That's what it is at the end of the day. That is 100% what it is. And I felt from level 3 onwards, I never got it. So I just want to kind of briefly go over this point and then I'll explain where it gets kind of okay. So then to top it off, the person from the full-time college that tried kicking me off the course, she ended up being manager. And she tried talking to me. And yes, this is going to sound petty, but I don't care. I didn't want nothing to do with her. And she tried talking to me and I said, don't speak to me. And she's like, excuse me. I said, don't talk to me. I said, after the stunt you pulled, stay away from me, stay away from my qualification, thank you. And I don't even care if she was manager or whatever. I didn't want it anywhere near me. And another thing that happened, this is going back to near enough the beginning. So you would have somebody that would come out once a month to see if they could pass anything off for you. And then there's this one occasion, anyway, there was this one particular occasion where he just rocked up. No one had told me. College hadn't booked it with the salon, because that's what was supposed to happen basically. The college would ring the salon and say, right, we need to book in there. Or just an out session or something like that. Something out session. And they'd have to book it. And basically the college hadn't, and they told him that he had a session with me. So it was really weird. I came off my lunch at work. And then, because I was an assistant at the time, and then there was about 5 of us in total assistants, and there was this other assistant who said, oh, so-and-so's here. I went, you what? She's like, yeah, he's here to do whatever with you, like your training with you. And I was like, No one's told me. And I've got no model, I've got no nothing. I felt really bad and guilty for him that he had to come all this way. That nothing had been sorted, so it was a waste of. So I ended up working on a blockhead, it was just crap. And he was fuming as well. And then fast forward, then probably it was about November time because we moved where we were to another place, same salon, but we moved the following year. But this had to be in November. Told me about, and he was like, "Oh, I'm leaving, but you are gonna have somebody else that's gonna come out to you." That never fucking happened. Just saying, that never happened. And I'll constantly ask about it. And a whole year went by. A whole year went by when no one came out. Even though I was asking about why nobody was coming out. Okay. And when someone eventually did, it was for the last two sessions before I completed the course. What's the point in that? And she was crap and all. Because basically my friend, I got my best mate to be my model, and basically she bleached her hair and then she went pink at one point, but there were still remnants of the pink left. So what I wanted to do was bleach bath her hair, and she wanted to go back to natural. She was naturally about a 7, she's about a shade darker than me. So I was like, I'm going to bleach bath it and then the colour on, so make sure that pink's gone, and then, you know, but this tutor was going on like, well, why are you going to do that for? It's going to go lighter. No, it isn't. It's a bleach bath. Yes, it probably will lighten it a bit, but it's not there to lighten it. It's there to strip any colour out, you dumb twat. Like... Hello? And anyway, check this out. My best friend, she tells me a week later that the colour, the pink's still there. So I put this 7, I can't remember what it was now, and it also as well, she made me put an ashy colour on, which made her hair go slightly khaki. And I didn't want to do that because yes, my friend's hair was mousy, but I knew by putting that on top of bleached hair, bearing in mind I'm not qualified yet, but I know this, everyone knows this, putting it on top of bleached hair will make it go green. Honestly, and this woman apparently had been working at this academy for years. I think somebody else needs training, darling, and that's not me being a bitch, but come on. And it washed out anyway, and then the pink all come back through again. I'm not happy about that. And you know what, the people that it was embarrassing, because the people that I worked with went, why does the hair look green? Why does the hair look green? I was like, and at that point they could tell I was frustrated, so one of them said to me, what's the matter? And I said, she just didn't listen to what I was saying. Like, and as well, I needed like a colour correction kind of model to pass off. And I said I was frustrated because she made me do all that. That was her making me do that. I never asked to do that. And I said the pink's still showing through the hair, which I didn't want. And it looks khaki and green. And my best friend's picked up on that it looks khaki and green. So anyway, that was that situation. And then I then got moved in the academy. I got moved over to this other tutor who I have to say was 100% amazing. Was amazing. And she literally sat down, she was like, well, why are you doing this again? Why is this not been passed off? Like, there was so much that was wrong that she fixed. Thank God. And then catch on my theory work because there was so much needed to do on that because my other tutor just weren't bothered about that, I'm not going to lie. And then I come off my lunch and I'm like, where is she? Because I went into the classroom we were supposed to be in. Where is she? She's not there. So I go down to reception. Have you seen, let's call her Susie. That's not a name, but we'll call her Susie because I don't want to name people, you know. And there was like, oh, she's covering so-and-so's class, which was my old tutor that moved me on to another tutor. She'd only gone home sick and she'd messed someone's hair up. She turned someone's hair blue. And I'm not being funny, this woman, I knew who this model was. She was like an Iranian client, gorgeous lady, but basically her hair had been absolutely butchered to the point where her hair was like chewing gum. It was so bad. And they put an ashy toner on. I think it was because we used Weller there. So I think it was like a Weller instant shot. I don't know what you actually called it, but it was the one where it was in the... Was it the glass bottle? I think it was the glass bottle. And I think it was double ash. Okay, it was double ash. Her hair was blue. Anyway, I've walked into class very angry and frustrated, and bless Susie, she came over. She went, "I'm really, really sorry, but I've had to cover this class." You know, at that point, I actually stopped being pissed off for me, but I felt for her because she wouldn't take no for an answer. You know, she was like, Susie was like, "Look, I'm not happy to put anything else on your hair. Like, it was a bleach bath that needed to be done. I'm not happy to do a bleach bath. Your hair will not take it. Please, please, I've got a wedding. I'm travelling out. I've got a wedding in next week. I need it fixed, blah, blah." And it was going back and forth. And in the end, Susie was like, "Look, the only thing I can say is that you fill it in an agreement, and that if anything goes wrong, that it's on you, because I've advised you against that," which is something that we would do if we felt like a client weren't listening. They did. To be fair, her hair didn't get too much more damaged than it already was, and it looked a lot better than when it was freaking blue. Do you know what I'm saying? But it annoyed me because that situation, I was supposed to have my theory, and this whole tutor's just decided to be ill. Lord Jesus, it was just a shambles. And even right up until the end, when I went to collect my certificates, certain certificates weren't with the rest of them, and I had to go back and. Oh, it was a relief when I left. It was a relief, but I felt like I wasted an entire 2 years practically. I want to say I felt like it weren't even 2 years actually, because it was July of 2016 and it was March of 2018? Was it before that? I've been February 2018. So it was like a year and a bit, really. Let's be honest, it was a year and a bit. And it felt like such a waste of time, and I was hoping that it would be so much different and I'd finally be able to get my education back. And it kind of really annoyed me because I had to kind of then learn myself things that I should have been taught. So my whole point of telling my story is, if you are in the same situation, speak up. If you know that it's wrong, and if you know that you are not receiving what you should be receiving in your education, you're not in school anymore, it's what you signed up to do, so therefore you should receive the correct education and all of the support that you need. If you are not, say something. Don't do what I did and think, well, this must be the way it is, and I'm too scared to say anything because, obviously I'm young or whatever. No, speak up. It's not okay. It is not okay at all. Do what's right. And if you still feel like you haven't received it after that, then just find somewhere else to go. I wish that I did that. I wish, even going back to level 3 of full-time college, where the first thing started happening, the first red flags, I wish I just went. I wish I had the confidence I have as a 28-year-old now to be like, I ain't standing for this, I'm going. And left. I wish I did it, because I wasted so much time and it's affecting me on. But with that being said, there was things I took from it. There were good times. I ended up at the very end having a good tutor in the academy. She was fantastic, and she really sorted everything out that should have been sorted. So, honestly, just speak up, because that's something you'll regret if you don't. And trust me, I know better than anybody. Okay. So yeah, that was my story time for my ring light's just died. I say it's my ring light, it's not. It's my mirror that I use as a ring light, because I don't have one anymore, because I got rid of my old one because it was too big and bulky, and I'm looking for one that will be more, nice sized, travel sized. If you did enjoy the video, hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe, hit the notification icon to keep in touch with what I'm doing, because I will be making more videos, believe you me. And just take what you need from this video, and I really, really genuinely do hope that it helps other people out there who are starting in college, university, apprenticeships, whatever, sixth form, whatever. And if you feel the need that something's not right, then you say something. I'll see you in the next one. Oh, Joe, you're a piece of shit. Yep, the one of the mirror lights kept falling down. Not every time, but it was like about 2 times it happened, so this is one of the moments.